everybody, welcome to the Friday Night Curry Club. We're back! We've had a week off and it's been nice to rejuvenate and relax and take it easy, but it's even better to be back. I hope you're all good, I hope you're all raring to go. I forgot what I was going to say. Welcome to my kitchen, as I always say. Really lovely to have you all join. So we're doing a really special dish today. Every dish is special. Every time we cook, it's always special. But we're going to do something called Kukul Maas, which is a very traditional Sri Lankan chicken curry. So we've done quite a few chicken curries over the years, and there's all different ways that you can make them, different influences from all around the country, the world, wherever you might be. But this one is a Sri Lankan version, so it's got some very distinct spices and some very distinct flavours that are going to go into it, so it's going to be really, really good. First and foremost, as always, I like to say a very big hello, a very big warm welcome to anybody who is joining us for the first time. So we do the Friday Night Curry Club every Friday, most Fridays, some Fridays I have off, but most Fridays you'll find me here at 6:15 BTS. And we do a live, usually about an hour, cook along together. The way that it works is the Wednesday before the Friday, I will post out on my Instagram, on YouTube and my social media channels the dish that we're going to be cooking. I give you a list of ingredients and it hopefully gives you a few days to go out and buy those ingredients. And then at 6:15 on a Friday, everyone logs in and we all cook together in real time, and then you get to go off and enjoy your amazing freshly cooked dish with your families and get to start the weekend with a bang. So welcome everybody. As always, I like to say a big hello to everybody, so we're going to go round the world hopefully and give you all a little shout out. So if you have just joined us, make sure you say hello. Let me know where in the world you are joining us from. Let me know if you are cooking. Let me know if you're just watching. Let me know if this is the first time you're joining us. And yeah, this is your opportunity to say a hello and I will give you a little hello back. So have we got lots of hellos coming in?
We have got Sharon is joining in from Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Hi Sharon, all the way from Sri Lanka, from Colombo. Welcome. Really lovely to have you join. I hope you are good. This is your opportunity to give me lots of tips as well. So if there's anything that you want to shout out or tell me about, please do, because you are in that beautiful part of the world. Welcome, lovely to have you join us.
We've had loads of people say hello, so I'm just going to blitz through.
Lots of hellos.
Steve in Wisconsin.
Hi Steve in Wisconsin.
Mark and Sheila are here. We've got
Mark
Vanessa
and Sheila,
in South
hi.
Africa.
Vanessa in South Africa,
We've
welcome.
got Gordon's here, Mark.
Hi Gordon, hi Mark.
Lois in Australia.
Hi Lois in Australia. Always like to give you a shout out.
Steve in Bristol.
Hi Steve in Bristol, how you doing?
Watching, made it yesterday, it was lush.
You made it you made it yesterday. Was it good? That's what we want to hear.
Got Dominique in France.
Hi Dominique in France, hope you're well. Lovely to have you join us.
We have got Melanie in Ohio.
Hi Mel.
We've got Jenny in Florida.
Hi
Matt
Jenny in Florida.
Also in Florida, cooking with cauliflower. It's 35 degrees in
35 degrees in Florida, so you're using cauliflower. Good choice, good choice.
We've got Tina from Frankfurt.
Hi Tina, how you doing? Welcome, lovely to have you join us. Thank you for taking the time out of your Friday evening.
And Julian is here.
Hi Julian, hope you're all getting better, back on those old legs and running around the kitchen. Lovely to have you join us. Thank you everybody. Oh, we've got more.
Irving in North Miami. And
hi Irving in North Miami.
Denise cooking from Sullivan.
Hi Denise.
Did
you post a picture in the app just to show me your
for the first time.
Cooking for the first time? I think it was you who posted a picture of all your prep work. I was very impressed. Well done.
And we've got Ellie.
Hi Ellie.
It's Joy's friend.
Hi
Jai's
Ellie,
not
Jai's
here.
friend. Jai's not here today, he's at cricket, so welcome anyway. Lovely to have you all join. Gosh, we've got loads of people from all around the globe. It's amazing. And I'm very, very humbled and very flattered that you all take the time out of your Friday evenings or mornings or whatever time it is to join. So welcome to my kitchen. As I said, we are going to be cooking a Kukul Maas, which is a chicken curry. It's Sri Lankan chicken curry, and I'll talk you through what we're going to do. I'll talk you through all the ingredients. As I always say, this is your opportunity to ask lots of questions. It's very interactive, so if there's something that you want to know, please do ask away. Naya will shout out the questions as we're going through. If I'm going too quickly for you, if you're cooking along, please do let me know and I can slow things down. If you miss something as I'm babbling on, which I tend to do, then again, please do shout out and I can revisit the bits or the steps that we're going through. So this is a dish. So I was inspired last week because I took the last weekend off because it was our wedding anniversary, and when we got married, we went to Sri Lanka on our honeymoon. So it was beautiful, beautiful country, absolutely lush. It's just lovely. The people are amazing, the food is amazing, the terrain, the whole sort of country is just beautiful. So it was our 20th wedding anniversary last weekend, and we went into London and we went to a Sri Lankan restaurant just because, why not? So it inspired me to do this dish today because I thought actually that's quite a nice sort of slightly different to what we normally do, but it's a really delicious dish to do. So what we have got here, so I've got some coconut oil. We're going to be using coconut. This is, again, it's when we're cooking these dishes, just think about where that dish comes from because that will inform you as to the kinds of ingredients that you need. So obviously coconut is synonymous with Sri Lanka, South India, that kind of thing. So we're using coconut oil to cook this dish with. It's a sort of two-stage cooking process, if you like. There's the masala, the dry masala that we're going to make, and we're going to be using some dry spices that we're going to toast and we're going to grind, and we're going to make that lovely spice blend. And then there's the sauce or the masala that we're going to make, and that we're going to use some different spices for. So the recipe that's on the website, obviously it's there, all the information is there that you need. I'm going to just switch it around slightly so that we start the masala first, because otherwise we'll be here all night long, which I know that you love spending time with me, but I don't think you want to be here with me all night. So we're going to start the masala first, and then we're going to make the spice blend, and then we'll carry on. So the first thing that I've got here is I've got some lovely dried red chilies. I've got some curry leaves. So there's about 10, 15 there. I've got some cloves, and I've got some green cardamom, lovely green cardamom, and some cassia or cinnamon, but I'm using cassia. So that's what I'm going to use as my whole spices to make my masala. And then I've got my dry spices here as well. So this is what I'm going to toast and blend to make the masala. So in here I've got some cumin seeds, I've got some coriander seeds and some black pepper, which is very commonly used, and also fennel seeds. So you tend to use a lot of fennel seeds in Sri Lankan cooking. It's just got that little kiss of aniseed, that lovely sort of flavour.
We've got Hank is watching and reading the chat because his
Hi,
grandchildren are watching a movie on the TV, so he can't listen.
Hi,
Looking forward
Hank.
to cooking it tonight.
Are you cooking tonight? That's the main thing.
And then
Lovely.
we've had a question: are Sri Lankans mostly vegetarian?
We've got some Sri Lankans who are actually on the chat, so they are more than, please do feel free to answer and add your comments. I don't think so. I don't think vegetarianism is that big a thing in Sri Lanka. I know that pork is consumed, I know beef is consumed, I know that chicken and lots of dishes. I think it just varies, and it varies from family to family. Okay, so that is the key spices. We're also going to use some turmeric, and what's slightly different with this is we're going to use some paprika, and that's going to give that lovely colour rather than the chili powder that we normally tend to use. I've also got some garlic, some ginger, some onions, and I've also got something which is a little bit unique or a bit different from the Indian cooking that we normally do. So we're using lemongrass as well, which is this lovely looking ingredient. We've also got some coconut milk, and I've got my chicken here. Now I'm using legs, so I've cut them into drumsticks and thighs, and they're on the bone, just like that. Quite often what you can do is just use a whole chicken and just butcher that up if you want to. You can use a whole chicken, just cut that up. Meat on the bone is what we're after, just because it's got that nice low, slow, long cooking process, which gives you that really lovely, dark, deep, rich colour that we're looking for with this dish.
So Sharon, our resident Sri Lankan,
Hi, Sharon.
has said, you're right, only a handful I know are vegetarian.
Ah, thank you.
And then we've got a question from Anders, says, hello Harry, Sweden calling.
Hi, Anders.
I have a general question. When you use whole cassia bark, green cardamom and cloves, do you take them out from the sauce?
So generally what happens when you're using whole spices, and I know this is one of those Western Asian things, we tend to leave the whole spices in the sauce, and then we'll serve it, and as you're serving you'll see it, and you will sort of miss it out and not put it on people's plates. We tend to leave it in there because it's just sitting in there. It's absolutely fine. It's not going to do you any harm. You can see them. Some people absolutely hate biting down on cardamom because cardamom can be very, very floral, and it just fills your whole palate with that sort of floral, sweet, flowery taste. If you don't like cardamom, then what you can do is you can count how many you put in and count and take them out if you can find them. The other thing you can do is just open up the pods, sorry, and inside there's these little seeds, and you can just bash those seeds up and use the seeds instead. So it really depends. If you are, or your family doesn't like that whole spices in their food, take it out, and that's absolutely fine. But we tend to just leave them in there, and if you bite on one, hey, that's the luck of the draw. In this recipe on the website, what I have said is that if you don't like the whole spices, you can actually grind them up with the spice blend that we're making, rather than using them whole in the masala. So again, that's personal choice. So if you want to, you don't have to put your whole spices in here. You can just put them in with your other whole spices, and we can blend them all together.
We have
another question. We've got more questions.
Matt went to the Indian market today. They had no fresh lemongrass, instead pointed me to frozen pieces. Okay. After arriving home, it appears to be 90% frozen leaves about 2 centimetres long. Should I use for this or not?
Lemongrass or curry leaves, did you mean?
He said no fresh lemongrass.
So
I'm not... Yeah.
Read the comment again.
Went to the Indian market today. They had no fresh lemongrass, instead pointed me to frozen pieces. Okay. After arriving home, it appears to be frozen leaves about 2 centimetres long.
Oh, of the lemongrass. You can use it. Yeah, you can use them. Just use them. I would actually leave them whole, and then you can just fish them out. That's fine. So you were aiming for this, but you were given leaves to get it. Sorry.
Can you put those spices in a small muslin bag?
You can put the spices in a small muslin bag, absolutely. If you want to fish them out, that's fine to do as well. But I'm going to give you two different options as to what we can do here. If you want to, you can put them in a little bag and then you can fish them out, that's fine. But actually it might be easier if you just grind them all up together if you don't like that taste.
And we've got Crystal says, hello again from Hastings, New Zealand. It's 5:29 in the morning.
Hi Crystal from New Zealand. It's 5:29 in the morning and you are joining us that's dedication for you. It's lovely to have you join us. Okay, right.
What do you think about dried curry leaves?
So dried curry leaves are absolutely fine. You can't always get curry leaves. I know lots of you have said in the past that you can't always get fresh curry leaves. That's fine. We do also sell bags of the dried curry leaves as well. So if you can't get fresh, then it's fine. You can use some dried ones. You might need to use more dried ones than you would fresh ones. That's fine. Just bulk it up a little bit. But you've got to make the most of the ingredients that you can get. And I know this can be quite difficult for depending on where you are to get all of these ingredients. Okay, so shall we start cooking? One more question.
Joe said, I froze lemongrass in the winter. Are they not in season now? Or, I mean, are they okay to use, I guess?
They're fine. If you've got them frozen, you can just use them. That's fine. Just fish them out of your freezer and we'll chuck them in. That's absolutely fine.
Can you use a pestle and mortar to grind them?
For this dish, it's probably easier to have a spice grinder just because we are looking for a nice fine powder. Pestle and mortar you can use, but you're never ever going to get them ground down as much as you would in a spice grinder. But if that's all you've got, that's fine, because when we toast our spices, it makes them a little bit more brittle anyway. So it makes it easier to bash them in a pestle and mortar. So if that's all you've got, please do use it. It's absolutely fine. Okay, right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by getting our onions going, because obviously we want those onions to get nice and golden, and that's what's going to take the time. So we're going to start by putting in some coconut oil. And if you've never used coconut oil before, when you cook with it and you put it in, you smell it. It's just so delicious. It smells so different from using oil. Oh, it's lovely. So the coconut oil has gone in, and all I've done is I've just peeled my onion and I'm just chucking it in my chopper. Those of you who've joined me before know how much I love my chopper, but obviously nice and finely with your knife. I'm just going to cheat today, so we're just going to we want it nice and fine, really easy, really super simple. So we'll pop that there to get ready in a second. So what we're going to do is, once your oil has melted and you can smell it, it's really, really lovely, we're going to add our whole spices. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to give you two options here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our cassia bark. We are also going to just crack open the cardamom if you are doing this. If you don't want to use whole spices at this stage, just pop your whole spices in with the other spices. We'll do all of that together in a second. If you're using whole spices at this stage, just crack open your cardamom and just pop them in.
Alia has asked, what is your favourite spice in this recipe?
My favourite spice in this recipe, now that is a question and a half. I think in this recipe it's going to have to be fennel seeds, because I don't tend to use a lot of fennel seeds in my cooking, and it's quite nice to use something a bit different. So that's a good question. Cassia bark goes in, and I'm using 3 dried red chilies. Now, if you like it with a bit of a kick, then use 3. If you like it with less of a kick, just use 1. As we cook this dish, as the chilies break down, they will start to release a little bit of heat and so on. So, and we are also going to be adding some fresh chili as well. So just be mindful of your heat level and your family's heat level in terms of how many chilies you add. So I'm adding 3. If you don't want it to be as hot, just add 1. So that's going in. And also my cloves. So I've got 4 cloves here, just popping those in as well. Now, you should, if you've done this, be starting to get some amazing, lovely, delicious aromas coming through. Be very mindful that you don't burn your spices, because obviously if you burn your spices at this stage, you need to throw them away and start again. The whole point of toasting your spices like this is just to flavour that base oil, just to get some aromatics going, get them to release their aromatics and their oils and start to flavour that dish. So very, very quickly, we are going to add our curry leaves in. So those lovely, beautiful little leaves. Now when you put curry leaves into hot oil, they will pop, so be careful. They will sizzle. You hear that? Now as soon as they go in, I'm literally going to give them a little stir. You can hear that. And then I'm going to go in with my onions. Okay, so the onions are going to go in. Now, as soon as my onions have gone in, that's going to cool the pan down. And already you should really be able to smell the aromatics coming off it, and it'll smell very different to some of the Indian dishes that we've done in the past. So, oh, smells good. So I'm just going to let that sit there and sizzle away. Now I've turned my temperature down a little bit because I want these to go nice and golden. The aim of this dish for me is for it to end up being really quite dark in colour and dark in flavour. So we want our onions to go nice and golden, which is why I've switched it around from the way that I've done it on the website, because whilst we're cooking live, it will give it a little bit more time to start browning and turning that beautiful golden colour.
Can I use the same length of cinnamon rather than cassia?
Yes, you can use cinnamon. Cinnamon and cassia are slightly different in the flavours that they give, and generally in Sri Lanka they tend to use cinnamon rather than cassia, so absolutely you can do. Cinnamon is a little bit hotter in its flavour, whereas cassia's got slightly more sweetness to it. So if that's what you've got, absolutely you can use that.
Should we put the curry leaves in now, even if they're dried?
So yes, if you've got your curry leaves dried, pop them in now as well. So just to recap, what we've done so far is I've heated up my coconut oil. Into that, I added my whole spices, which were my green cardamom, my cloves, my red chilies, sauteed those for a little while, and then added my curry leaves and my onions. Now, if you are not using whole spices at this stage, which you don't have to, I said earlier, just pop them into your other pop them into your other dish with your other spices that we're using, because we'll come to those and we'll toast them all together and we'll blitz the lot, so then you don't have the whole spices in your end dish. So we'll give that a little stir. That's looking good. It should be smelling really nice. Now, as we go through, as always, I do like to say to you, take little pictures as we go through the process, because then you can share them with me on my app. If you haven't got my app, you just need to search for Harry Ghotra on your, what's it called? On your app store. Just search for Harry Ghotra and you can download it, and it's free. There's a lovely community of people. There's a lot of people who are on the chat now who are part of the app, and it's just a really lovely community of people who share pictures, talk about food, ask questions, and it's probably the easiest way to get hold of me as well. So I always try to help if you've got questions, and there's other people within the app that will always be able to help, because there's such a vast amount of knowledge there. If you are somebody who is part of the app, please do put some comments in, let other people know how you get on, what it's all about. But yeah, as we go through the session, take some pictures and then you can share them with me and I can see them, because it's always nice to see the other side.
Can I use lemon balm if I run out of curry leaves?
It's not something I've ever substituted before. I don't see why it would be a problem. You can do. But if you've run out of curry leaves, I quite often say if you haven't got curry leaves, there's not really anything that you can substitute them for. So just don't worry too much about it. Just leave them out. Okay, so that's going on in there. Now, what we're going to do as these start to brown and cook, we're going to add some garlic and some ginger into there and some chilies as well. These are bird's eye chilies, which is what tends to be used in Sri Lankan cooking. So they are quite fiery, so be careful again. Use however many you think are going to be suitable for you and your family. I'm going to probably use 2, and then I'll see how I go. I might always add another one later, you know what I'm like. Okay, so my chilies are there, my garlic is there, my ginger's there. I'm going to pop that all in a minute. We'll get that ready. Before we do that, we'll start on our spice blend. So what I've got going in here is a teaspoon of fennel seeds, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, a teaspoon of coriander seeds, and half a teaspoon of black pepper, and that's peppercorns. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pop those into a pan and we're going to toast them without any oil or anything, and all we're doing is just getting them to heat up a little bit and release their natural oils, so that, have a look at that little pan of beautiful stuff. By applying a little bit of heat to them, you just get them to release their oils. They get nice and toasted, which means that they become slightly more brittle, so that they blend really, really easily. But what it also does is it just enhances their flavour, being quite flat, quite elevated. It just brings everything to the surface. Yes, we have some questions.
Well, first, can I use lemon black pepper?
You can use lemon black pepper if that's what you've got. Yep, absolutely. It's just going to add a little bit of zing to it. Yep.
Are red chilies hotter than green chilies?
So it really depends, and we've had this question a few times. It really depends on the variety of chili. So the variety of chili really defines whether it's hotter or not. Different varieties of chilies will have heat to them at different levels. So generally when we cook Indian food, we tend to use the long, thin green chilies, and they are just in themselves fairly hot. But then if you compare that to the little Thai chilies or the red Scotch bonnets, for example, they are much, much hotter. So it really depends on your chili, and chilies can vary really significantly as to their heat levels, and they can vary from one batch to another depending on how they've grown. So do bear that in mind. The only way you are going to know is by just having a little nibble of it, and that'll inform how hot or not it is. Okay, so as my spices are toasting away, just make sure you give them a little jiggle every now and again. Now we don't want them to burn, but as soon as they are on, as soon as they're heating, you'll start to get the aromas coming through, because they'll start to release those oils. And as soon as they start to come through, you know that the heat has done what you want it to. So then we can let them cool a little bit before we pop them into our grinder. But there, you can see that's already doing its thing. Oh, it smells amazing. I love that smell.
Jiggle it a bit.
Jiggle it. So as we're going through the session, for those of you who are joining for the first time, we take pictures behind the scenes here, because I will then post these on Instagram so that you can see the process all the way through. So if there's any bits that you missed, you can rewatch the video, you can go to the website and look at the recipe, or you can go to Instagram and just see what we've been up to. Now, if you have done this bit, please do put a little comment. Let us know what you think in terms of the aromatics of the spices that you're getting through, because you should really get that fennel coming through quite beautifully. So I'm just going to pop that into my spice grinder, just give it a little shake. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I want to just cool them down a little bit. I don't want to blitz them whilst they're still hot, because they will produce a little bit of steam and it'll all stick in the bottom of the pan. So it is quite a good idea to just let them cool off a little bit before you do. Take a little pick of that. Now, whilst you're doing this, do keep an eye on your onions, but it should be smelling really, really nice. Yum. Now, with this dish, you can, if you want to, and so as I said, I've given you options here. You can use tomatoes. You can chop up some tomatoes and put those in, but you don't have to. I actually prefer this without the tomatoes, so I'm not going to use any, but if you are using them, that's fine. They just need to be chopped up really finely, and I will tell you when you add those in, but you just need to cook them down a little bit. Different sort of, not so much regions, but different families will do different things, and also sometimes you'll have tomatoes, sometimes you won't, so you sort of make judgments depending on how you want to cook them.
Joe has said, Harry, you completely changed the menus and the cupboards in this household. Thank you so much for all you did.
I'm so pleased. That's really good to know. It's so lovely to see all of the pictures and the cooking that's been going on, because there's been a lot of cooking. I'm really impressed, and I can't remember who it was, but when we weren't here last week, somebody did their own Friday night curry club and still cooked and shared their pictures. So I'm very grateful to you for keeping the love going.
Can we use tinned tomatoes?
You can use tinned tomatoes if you want to, or you can just miss them out. That's absolutely fine. You don't need tomatoes in this dish.
Are we having rice or bread with this?
So we are having rice. I've got some rice ready here, which we're going to cook once the chicken goes in, because the chicken's on the bone, it's going to take a little bit of time for it to cook. And also, with this dish, I like to leave it for a good sort of 40 minutes, 50 minutes, because that's what gives it the time to get really nice and dark and delicious. So it will be cooking for a while, and we can do some rice. And I'm going to just give you a heads up, I'm going to do some garlic rice. So if you've got a little clove of garlic, keep it for later, so we'll add it to our rice. Okay, so my spices have cooled down, looking beautiful in there. I'm just going to pop them on my spice grinder and give them a blitz, so I'll stop talking.
Just put it on there for me.
Let's have a look.
Thank you.
There we go. So just going to give it a blitz. If you're using a pestle and mortar, just give them a good sort of, make sure you use your pestle and mortar all the way around. Rather than bashing it, use it all the way around and really break up those seeds. And it should be fairly easy because we've toasted them. So I'll just show you what it looks like. It smells beautiful, and you should get a little wisp of that aniseed, which is just lovely. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for, a nice fine, a little bit more.
Is that like a coffee grinder? Can I use a coffee grinder?
You certainly can use a coffee grinder. So this is a spice and nut grinder. A coffee grinder is absolutely fine. Just do be aware, if you grind your spices in your coffee grinder, that sometimes your coffee might taste a little bit spicy. Okay, so dropped a bit there. So that's what we should end up with. Oh, it smells lovely. If you have a good whiff of it, it's going to make you sneeze because you've got all that lovely black pepper in there. So into here, we are going to add some spices, some more spices. So I'm going to put in a teaspoon, and this is something that we don't use a lot. And for those of you who know me, I am an absolute advocate of Kashmiri chili powder because I love the colour and the heat. But this time we're using a little bit of paprika. So I've got a slightly sweet paprika here. So I'm going to put in 2 spoons, I'm going to put a little bit more in, of paprika. And then I'm going to use a teaspoon of turmeric. And that goes in as well. Now I'm not going to blitz this, I'm just going to mix it. I should have really done it in a bowl. and we'll give that a mix, and I'll show you what it looks like. Now, if you have used your cardamom and your cloves and your cassia and you've blitzed it all together, which was the other option, your spice blend is going to look slightly darker, which is fine because we want this dish to be nice and dark. So don't worry too much, but that's what it looks like. And it should smell really aromatic, really quite, should make your room, your kitchen smell delicious as well. Okay, so
can we use non-Kashmiri chili powder?
You can, so just be careful of the amount of chilies you're adding. If you are going to be adding chili powder into this as well, remember you've got 2 or 3 chilies in your pan, you've got the fresh chili you're putting in, and you're going to also add some chili powder in. If you haven't got any paprika, then a little bit of chili powder, but not too much. If you're using non-Kashmiri chili powder, just be careful that you're not using a hot one, because I don't want it to get to the point where it's too spicy. Now, Sri Lankan food is known for its kick and its spice, but it also has to be suitable for you to enjoy and eat. Okay, so here's my chicken. I'm just going to pop that in just to coat it all. You don't have to do this bit. You can just use the spices directly into your, I might just use this actually. You can just use the spices directly into your masala, but I just thought, whilst my chicken sat here, I may as well just give it a little coating. Why not? There's no harm in it. And now the difference, one of the key differences I think it's probably quite important to mention, is whenever I've cooked with you in the past, I always say that with Indian food in particular, we always tend to remove the skin and make sure that we cut any excess fat off. Whereas with this dish, the skin is left on, which is a little bit different. I'm not really sure why that is or the reasoning for it, but maybe the lady from Sri Lanka can give us some feedback. But generally I think a lot of chicken dishes you tend to leave the skin on, so very interesting but very slightly different from what we normally do. So that's what you've got.
Can you coat it overnight?
You could do, there's no reason why you can't. Okay, so that's just going to sit there until my onions are nice and golden.
That's so funny. Before you'd even started talking about it, 2 people have mentioned that's one of the few times you use the skin on it.
Absolutely, you are. See, you know me so well. So the lovely spice blend. So if I just go over what we've got in there, we had a teaspoon of fennel seeds, a teaspoon of coriander seeds, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, half a teaspoon of black pepper. And that's the other thing, with all the chilies that have gone in here, we're also adding black pepper, and that is going to give a heat as well, so do be careful. And all I did was just toasted those spices just until they become lovely and aromatic and release those beautiful oils. And then I popped it into a grinder, blitzed it so you get a really nice fine powder, and then mixed a teaspoon of turmeric into there, a teaspoon of paprika, which is slightly different to what we normally do. And then that blend has just been used to coat that chicken, and the chicken is on the bone and it's got the skin on as well, so different from what we normally do.
For cauliflower, should I cut it into steaks or florets?
So I think with a cauliflower you could do some nice chunky florets. I think steak might take a bit of cooking. It would probably take quite a long time to do the cooking, so I would go with florets for cauliflower. Is anybody else doing any other veggie options or vegan options? Please do shout and let me know so that I know if I need to stop at any point or give you some more information. Okay, so whilst my onions are starting to go really beautiful and golden, I'm just going to get my other ingredients prepped. And I know a lot of you have done all of the prep beforehand, which is very good of you. So I have got here 5 6 cloves of garlic, just because I like garlic. So you could get away with just 4 in this dish, but I'm going to be using 6 because I'm a bit of a garlic fiend. So I'm just chopping that up, and I'm going to go over this with my knife a couple of times because I'm going to have this nice and fine.
Sharon has said, it totally depends on the family, I guess. Mine usually isn't a fan of chicken skin.
Ah, it is really, really interesting.
And then Mark, someone else has said, the skin can be cooked separately to make a chicken crackling and flavoured with lemon and ginger as a garnish.
Yes, that sounds good as well. I mean, the amount of cooking this is going to take, that low, slow cook, you probably won't even realise that the skin is on there when you come to eat it, because it will be just so beautifully tender.
Denise has said, my onions are really dark already.
Okay, if your onions are really dark and you're getting a little bit worried, then get that garlic in. Don't worry if it's nice and dark, that's what we want, because the colour of this dish is that beautiful, nice dark colour. So get that garlic in as soon as you can. Chop it up nice and fine.
If we make this at Christmas, can we use turkey?
There's no reason why you can't use turkey. Depends which cut of turkey you're going to use. Now remember, turkey can be a meat that dries quickly, obviously depending on cooking. But are you talking about using the drumsticks, the great big turkey drumsticks, or are you talking about breast and so on? But yeah, you can use any meat really. You could use mutton for this, you could use goat meat, you could use anything. It's just about that lovely low, slow cook.
John has just said Sri Lankans never use the skin. If you buy a chicken there, they're always skinless.
Ah, okay, interesting. Interesting. Right. So my garlic has gone in, and I'm just going to let that cook down. Whilst that is, the aromatics and everything are coming through, I am going to just grate some ginger. Because that's probably very similar to India, because in India they wouldn't tend to use the skin and so on, whereas a lot of the Caribbean guys that we've cooked with over the weeks and so on, you tend to leave the skin on in those regions as well. So interesting.
Liz has just said, I can't let my rescued ex-battery chickens hear this stream. They'll leave home thinking they're for the pot.
Aww. We'll pretend we're talking about cauliflower, shall we? Okay, so I've just grated my ginger, and I'm just going to chop up this. I'm using 2 chilies, nice and fine, because we want all of that heat to dissipate through the dish. Don't leave your chilies too chunky, although with the cook time on this, they will all sort of disintegrate anyway. Now, once your garlic goes in, we do need to let it cook a little bit. We need it to saute so that you don't have that raw garlicky flavour in there.
Someone said, I don't peel my ginger anymore. Is this acceptable?
This is very acceptable. Did you see me peel my ginger? I never peel my ginger either. Give it a wash, but I don't peel it. I'm just going to show you, because I just realised I didn't show you what my onions looked like, so I'm just going to show you now. So they're very nice and golden, and the garlic's gone in. That's the flecks that you can see. Okay, so we'll give that a little stir through. Now, as your garlic starts to cook, then we are going to add our ginger and chilies as well. Now, a lot of you, when I have cooked in the past, when we do our cooking together, you'll notice that I always put my ginger and chilies in once my tomatoes have gone in or my liquid's gone in, because I don't want my ginger to catch on the bottom. But with this dish, because I want it to be nice and dark, I don't mind if it catches on the bottom. So don't worry too much.
John's just said that his family's from Jaila. and they've said Sri Lankans have a bit of an old wives' tale about the skin.
Okay.
My family's Sri Lankan. They're concerned about cholesterol, but at the same time they eat mountains of rice for lunch with lots of oil.
There you go. See, it's just those things that you've been brought up to. You know, they're just part of your history and so on. So that's what you think. Okay, so I'm now going to add my chilies and I'm going to add my ginger, my grated ginger. Also, a slight difference is that up in North India, we're slightly more heavy-handed with garlic, but I believe the further south you go, it's more about the ginger and those sort of fresh ginger, lemony flavours. And that's sort of replicated a lot in the ingredients that we're using today. Okay, this is looking delicious. Right, so I'm going to give you a recap. So what we did to begin with, we put our coconut oil in. In the coconut oil, we added our base layer of spices, which was the red chilies, the dried red chilies, some cracked green cardamom, some cloves and cassia bark went in there. Then I put in some curry leaves. As they splutter, I then added my very, very finely chopped onion and got that to cook down, give it a stir every now and again till it gets really nice and golden. And then I've added some garlic, and I've added about 6 cloves of garlic. Just given that a little bit of a stir before adding my ginger and chilies, and mine is slightly catching on the bottom, which is absolutely fine, not a problem at all. Now if you are using tomatoes, once you get to this stage you can add your tomatoes in, and if you are using tomatoes, you need to let them cook for a little bit and just break down so that the acidity in them breaks down. But if you're not using tomatoes, then we are going to go straight in with our chicken. So I'm going to show you what it looks like first. It smells amazing. Right, if you guys are cooking with me, can you give us some comments in the commentary and let us know how you're getting on and what it's looking like and how it's smelling? But that's where we are at the moment. It's got a lovely dark colour to it. And it's just slightly catching on the bottom, which is perfect.
Can you grow a curry leaf plant in England?
You certainly can. You can grow curry leaf plants in the UK. In fact, I think they grow very well. I think the problem is actually getting, so you'd have to buy a curry leaf plant, which you can buy. So if you can get a hold of one, buy them, and they keep really, really well. I just don't know how you'd grow it. You can't grow it from the leaves. Okay.
Mark's just said, my mother-in-law's from Dominican Republic. They only leave skin on the legs of the birds as they add less oil and use the fat of the skin for cooking.
God, I'm learning new things every day. That's brilliant. A really useful bit of information.
What level of cooking heat are you using? Because I always burn my spices.
Okay, so when you're using you've got to keep fluctuating your temperature when you're using when you're cooking. So I've been cooking at quite a low heat. I'm going to now turn it up because I'm going to add my chicken in. If you haven't added your chicken in yet, if you are using tomatoes, you need to pop your tomatoes in now. If you're not using tomatoes, then you can get your chicken in. So I'm going to pop my chicken in, and I'm just going to put it around the bottom just so that it gets a bit of heat to it, and I'm going to turn my temperature up.
Hang on.
There we go. My drumsticks go in. Now any spice that I've got left at the bottom of that is going in. I'm not wasting any of it, it's all going in. So I'm just going to let that get a little bit of heat. Okay, so are you all with me, guys? If you are, let me know what you're doing, if you're using tomatoes, if you're not using tomatoes. It just helps me to pace. And we haven't heard from any. Gordon, have you got your G&T? I know you ordered it on Wednesday, but so I hope everyone's got their Friday night drink in hand.
Yeah, I refreshed it and my internet's just gone, so I can't do anything.
So I'm just going to give it a little stir and just make sure that it gets a little bit of heat to it. But what I will do is just show you the inside of my pan and show you how it's looking, because it's looking pretty good. So that's okay. So the aim is to get a little bit of heat to the chicken. And if you feel that it's catching, it's fine, don't worry too much, because we're going to add some coconut to this in a minute. Now, if you've got your tomatoes in, hopefully your tomatoes by now will have broken down. What you don't want to do is add your chicken to the tomatoes if they're really still quite wet. You need to let them cook, give them time to cook and break down a little bit until you get a really nice pulp and it's really nice and thick. Then you add your chicken. Otherwise you'll just end up with a little bit of a quite an acidic flavour.
So, I think you just answered that. If I'm using tomatoes, how long should I let them cook before adding the chicken?
So I would say you. It's quite difficult for me to say how long because I don't know how many tomatoes you've added. It really depends on the consistency and what it cooks down to. So what I would say is cook your tomatoes until they turn almost into a paste. So they all break down and then they sort of mix in with the onion and it all comes together. So it could be about 6 or 7 minutes, but it depends on how much you've added.
John's just said, please don't add the coconut milk now. Always in the last 5 minutes, I'll cry. So there
what?
You go. Add your coconut cream until the last 5 minutes, otherwise you're going to set John off.
Why will you cry, John? I don't understand.
Because you always put in your coconut in the last 5 minutes.
Ah, no, not this is this. Yeah, this is very, very different. So this coconut. So this dish is so the chicken is actually going to cook in the coconut. So I've got coconut from a tin here, and what I've done is I've really mixed it up. So I'm not just using the cream; I'm using the whole thing.
What? Did I not say that?
Okay. I'm just. It's all flying all over the place.
He's Sri Lankan. John is Sri Lankan.
Ah, I see. Okay. So see.
This is why you're saying you always add it in the last 5 minutes.
So really, really interesting. So we need the chicken to cook down until it's all cooked through, and then you add your coconut milk at the end. Interesting. So there's lots of different ways. Okay. I'll just show you what it looks like. So, too hot. So there we go. So it's starting to cook down, but what I'm going to do is let that. I'm going to let that do its thing. I'm going to put the lid on for a little while. and let the fat start rendering out, let the moisture start coming out, and it will start to create its own juice and its own gravy and its own sauce. The only thing I haven't done, I always forget this, is I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I forgot to do that. So a bit of salt goes in. Get it seasoned up beautifully. I'm going to stir it as well. So we'll let that cook for a little while before we add our coconut milk. I'm taking live advice. Okay.
He's just said, actually don't listen to it, it's not my channel, I'm zipping my mouth.
Right, I'm just going to have a little wipe down here. Okay, how's everyone getting on? Have we had any comments or any questions come through?
Denise cooked my tomatoes down till most of the liquid was gone and I just put in the chicken.
Brilliant. Okay, so we are good. We are cooking.
You temp the chicken.
Temp?
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I put it in on a really high heat and just let it sear so that it gets a bit of colour to it, and then turn it down, put the lid on and let it just start to cook in its own juices. You'll see that all the moisture and liquid and fat renders out the chicken, and you start to create your own gravy. And then into that we're then going to add our coconut milk, and we're also going to put in our lemongrass. So what we want to do to our lemongrass is we're just going to bruise it. So just using the back of your knife, just give it a little bash. What you can do actually before I do that is just take off the outer layers, because they can be a little bit, there we go. Just take that one off. I might just nip the bottom off as well. Oh, it smells amazing. And then just bash, just bruising it.
Matt has asked, did your kids cook for you two while you're on your anniversary weekend?
We went away for the weekend as a family. We all went away. Nobody cooked for anyone. We went out for dinner a couple of times, which was very nice. We went out as a family to Hoppers, and then we went to a lovely place called Ember by London Bridge, which is like Pan Asian cuisine, and then we had a picnic in Regent's Park as well, because it was so beautiful. So yeah, there was very little in the way of cooking which went on. I did make some bacon sandwiches, which is probably as good as it got, but it was very nice. And thank you for all your messages. I got so many messages and congratulations comments, and it was really, really humbling. It was very nice. Thank you so much.
Where did you get your wizard chopper from?
My wizard chopper. You missed out. See, so this is from a company called Kern Rickon, who I did some work with a while back, and we were they actually gave us all a discount for them, but they're called Kern Rickon. I'll show you the top so that you can. That's the name of the brand, but they are brilliant. They are really, really useful. I pretty much use mine most days, but they're very, very easy and fun choppers to use.
Denise is now starting basmati rice and a garlic naan to pair tonight.
Oh, how lovely. I hope you've got a little glass of something to enjoy as well. Right, I'm going to have a little clear down whilst we get ready for the next bit. So we're going to get our rice ready as well. So let's just have a little wipe down. Whilst I'm doing that, if you've got any questions, please come my way. Then please do ask. Okay, so I'm going to put my coconut milk in. The other thing that I'm using is something called Ghotra water. It's actually, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Pandan Leaves. So Pandan Leaves are, they're really thin, long green leaves. and they're used quite a lot in, I think they use them in Thai cooking, they definitely use them in South Indian cooking, and they've got quite a gentle sweetness to them, almost like, people say they taste grassy with a little bit of vanilla or a little bit of rose in there. It's got quite a sweet aromatic, and we tend to use it, or we tend to use Ghotra water, which is the water from the pressed leaves, in biryanis and things like that. So this is an ingredient that you can use in this dish as well. So all you need is about a tablespoon of pandan water, or if you've got the leaves, you can just pop the leaves in. Depends where in the world you are as to whether you've got that kind of availability of those ingredients.
We've got a few questions.
We've got questions.
What breads are common in Sri Lanka?
Oh, what breads? So lots of different types of breads. It is the land of the hopper. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of the hopper. So breads are made in a number of different ways. If you've ever had dosa or hoppers, they're a ground mix of rice and lentils that's made into a batter, and sometimes it's fermented. So for dosa it's fermented, so it's just left until it almost bubbles overnight, and then that is then smeared. You have these big, a bit like a tawa, so the tawa that we make rotis on, but they're bigger than that and they're thinner, and they smear the batter over the top of them, and it just makes this really, really thin, almost like a pastry, and then you can roll up, you put stuff in there and it's rolled up. They are just delicious, the best breakfast ever. Whereas a hopper it's a very similar batter, and I think you can make the batter with lots of different things, but it's made in a, I don't think I've got one, but I suppose it's made in a dish that's sort of that shape, and again the batter is poured into the middle and then it's swirled round like that, and then as it heats up it just creates almost a bowl shape, so it's a hopper, and then you use that to have with your sambal or your curries or whatever it might be. And quite often you can have it as a breakfast dish where the batter is put in there, it's swirled round, and as it sets they break an egg into the bottom, and the egg yolk is nice and soft in the middle, but you have that as a breakfast hopper. But yeah, lots and lots of different types of breads.
John has said there's coconut rotis, rotis with an egg, roast bun which is good with a crab curry, but generally breads are not as common as.
Yeah, so in and I know that India is a different country, but up in the north, that's where you tend to have your breads and wheat based breads or different grain type breads, whereas in the south and Sri Lanka a lot of the stuff is rice based, so even the batters are made with rice and so on, but they do have some style of breads. They're slightly different to what you would imagine. Okay,
how much coconut cream or coconut milk did you put in?
So I haven't put any in yet, so I'm going to put in my coconut. So about 200 mils. So a normal can is about 400 mils, probably half of that. And it really depends on how coconutty you want it. If you want more, you can add a little bit more, but I'm going to start with that. I'm going to put that in. Now, if you are cooking along, don't worry if you feel like it's catching on the bottom of the pan, that's fine. That is going to happen. Now, as I've added something cold, I'm just going to give this a stir. Now this chicken, oh, it looks amazing. It's a lovely colour as well. Now this colour, as soon as you add coconut to anything, it does lighten the colour, but I assure you, as this cooks and it continues to cook, that this is just going to get darker and darker in colour, which is what we want. So that goes in.
Quick question, I let my tomatoes get appropriately dry. Then add to the cauliflower, it's very dry.
Yeah,
add
so
water or just the coconut?
So if you are obviously using a vegetable like cauliflower, you just need to be a little bit more careful because obviously it's not meat, it's not going to have the liquid coming from the ingredients itself. So just start with the coconut. So pop your coconut in there. You probably will need to add a little bit of water, but just keep an eye on it as it cooks, because you're going to let it steam as well. So just keep an eye on it, and obviously if you want, if it feels like it's drying out or it's catching a little bit, then just add a little bit of water at a time. And then when it comes to the end, depending on how you like it, if you want it more saucy, you can add a little bit more water. Once your coconut goes in, give it all a good stir. And then we're going to add our bashed up, I'm going to take a photo, our bashed up, not bashed up, but our bruised lemongrass goes in as well. So we're going to let that do its thing, and I'll show you the colour of my dish. Now, the aim is that it gets really nice and dark. Now, you saw the pictures. It doesn't look like it's that colour yet, but it will get that lovely dark and moody colour, as I call it. Okay, so lid goes on, turn that down to a low heat. Now, if you're doing your cauliflower is going to take less time to cook, but you still need to keep an eye on it. But again, turn it down, make sure that that sauce is nice and bubbly, but then turn it down so that it lets that steam generate and it lets it all sort of start to cook. So we're going to let that do its thing, and we're going to move it actually, because then we can start to cook our rice. Actually, I'm playing. Now, ideally, if you are using the same chicken that I've been using, chicken on the bone, actually big chunky pieces of meat, I would recommend that takes a good 40 to 50 minutes, because you want it to cook down until the sauce really intensifies and it's all really delicious. The other way, obviously, that you could do it is you could add your coconut in at the end, and just leave it to just cook until the meat renders all of its juices out, and then you add your coconut later. But we'll keep an eye on that and let it. Looks good and smells good. Right, is everybody with me before we move on? Everybody still with me? No comments. No comments? Okay, I'm going to do a very, very quick rice dish, and then what I will do is, once that's cooking, we'll move our attention back to the chicken.
Has the Ghotra water gone in?
Yes, sorry, the Ghotra water will go in as well. I didn't actually put any in, but you put that, once your coconut goes in, you can put that in as well.
John said that's the right type of chicken. Boneless chicken in Sri Lankan curry will result in prison time.
Okay, so we're just going to make our rice. We're going to get that on. Whilst that's cooking, we'll have a look at the chicken as well. But as always, it really depends on the dish that we're cooking. Sometimes we cook it right through until the end, and other times when I know it's going to take a little bit longer, I will advise you to just let it cook, let it do its thing, have a little drink, and then take your pictures and share them with me. So I will show you as we go, and I'll show you what it looks like. But I would say that you should leave it cooking until we end the stream, and then you can show me what it looks like when you take your pictures.
Mark is all cleared down and ready for the next glass.
Oh, well done. Good, good. Okay, so what I've got is I've got my rice here, just some basmati rice. I'm using about a cup here. So it's always twice the amount of water to rice. Yep.
John's asked, have you tried samba rice? It's a very small grain, smaller than sushi rice, and really pungent, but so delicious and native to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, so and we've talked about rice on a number of occasions. There's so many different types of rice. I haven't tried that, but I'm going to keep that comment because I'm going to try and find some. What's it called? Samba rice. Okay, so I will have to look that up because there are so many different types of rice and so many different fragrances, and generally in the UK I mean we're getting a little bit more excited with rice and wild rice and red rice and that kind of thing, but generally what we tend to use is basmati. So I'm just using a cup here. I'm just going to wash this, and then we're just going to flavour it with some coconut oil and some garlic and some onion. So I'm just going to wash this first. And the way that I tend to wash it is I tend to soak it with water rather than just draining water through a sieve. And I'll show you why. So when you wash rice, you can see that it gets really murky. The liquid gets really murky. And that's what you need to be able to see. So then you drain that and then you fill it up again. So you wash it 2 or 3 times. Just until the water runs clear, and that will make sure that you've got lovely grains of delicious rice.
Indian or Pakistani basmati?
So this, well, it depends what you can get your hands on, I guess. So I tend to use the Indian, but I don't think it's that dissimilar, if I'm honest. Right, there we go. So just washing that through. Right. Just going to let that drain for a minute, and then we'll just get our other ingredients ready. So I'm going to add a little bit of coconut into I'm using my lovely little rice pan. And then I'm going to just use slices of garlic. So I'm going to keep it fairly chunky. And what I want to do is for a change, I actually want to get a bit of colour onto this. And I'm also got some onion. I'm just going to use some onion slices as well. Now I'd like to know how your cauliflower is getting on.
Is there a reason why you don't use a rice cooker?
I've never really used a rice cooker. I've always been taught how to do it in this way. I know a lot of people do use rice cookers. There's nothing wrong with using rice cookers. I suppose you just get used to the way that you've been taught how to do it. I know some people will always cook using a rice cooker, and they are good because they're quite helpful. Oh, this looks really nice. It looks really good. The colour is not right, but it will darken as we go. But hopefully you're so that's just going to simmer away. Now into my rice, I'm going to add just a teaspoon of cumin seeds, and then I'm going to add my onion because I want to get a bit of colour to this.
Matt said he hasn't had to add any water yet. The coconut milk is keeping well.
Brilliant. Keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. So all I've done in here is I've added some coconut oil, I've added my cumin seeds, and then I have put in slices of onion, which I want to get a little bit of colour to. So as they start to cook, I'm going to then add my garlic as well. There we go. Give that a little stir. So who else is cooking rice? Have we got people doing rice? If we have, let me know if you are doing this or if you're going plain, because with a dish like this, plain rice is absolutely fine. There's so much flavour in that dish that it's okay. So I want to start getting a little bit of that brown colour come through before I do anything else. Oh, it smells amazing. Right, have we got any more questions coming in? Anything that you guys are unsure about or you want to ask me? This is your opportunity. My throat's gone a bit dry.
Mark's doing rice. Steve says, I'll cook it after the video.
Oh, you're going to cook it afterwards?
John has said, I know it sounds like blasphemy, but a lot of Sri Lankan households will use coconut milk powder made by Maggie. It's actually really good and super convenient if you can get your hands on it.
I love coconut powder. Who's that? Was that John?
John, yeah.
John, I absolutely love Maggie's coconut powder. It's brilliant. I tend to use that when I do my my Malabar prawn curry or anything like that, because it just adds a really nice richness, and it's got a slight sweet tinge to it, which is really nice. But even in sometimes you can cover prawns with some spices and a little bit of that coconut powder. It is really, really good stuff. I agree with you there. I have to say.
Denise is doing rice and Tina is doing plain rice.
Lovely. We've got lots of cooking going on. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see your dishes. It's going to be so much fun. Right. This is going to be lovely.
Matt is also doing rice, using the rest of this 400ml tin of coconut milk with a bit of water to match the amount of rice.
So if you have got some coconut milk left, you can use some of it in your rice. The other thing you can do with your curry as well is once your chicken has got to the point where it's really nice and ready, you can take the lid off and then you can add a little bit more coconut into there and then cook it for another 5 or 6 minutes with the lid off, and it just helps to loosen everything and just freshens it all up. So keep just a little bit of your coconut to add back into your curry as well. Okay, right, so I'm starting to get a little bit of colour to my onions and garlic. Can you see?
Annie is just stopping by on my way out. We'll catch up later.
Oh, nice to see you, Annie. I hope you are good. I don't know if we've had Joni and Lawrence tune in.
I haven't.
They are in London for Lawrence's birthday. So if you watch this over, which I hope you do, happy birthday to you. I hope you have a lovely time in London. Some of our usual weekly characters that join us, which is always nice. Okay, so I've got a bit of colour here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my rice. And for those eagle-eyed of you, yeah, I did drop a few grains, not like me, I know. And then I'm just going to add, now if you've got coconut milk, as I said, you can put coconut milk in.
We've got people watching in Prague. as
Hello
well.
guys in Prague, welcome. Lovely to have you join us. Brilliant. It's always good to have people from all over the world joining. Amazing. Right, so I'm going to give this a stir and I'm going to add a little bit of salt into here. So just as a recap, all we have done with our garlic rice is we heated up some coconut oil, and into that I added some cumin seeds. Just got them really nice and toasty and aromatic. Then we popped in a few little bits of sliced onion, got a little bit of colour to them, and then we've added a piece of garlic, a sliced bit of garlic went in, sauteed that off just to get some colour to it because we want those little flecks of beautiful colour. Rice goes in, just coat the rice with the oil that's in the pan, and then you add your water. So roughly twice the amount of water to rice, and you bring this up to a rolling boil. And by rolling, I mean a really vigorous boil, because what you want is you want to start creating steam, so some of that liquid evaporates off, and then you turn it down and we start to cook it. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. Meanwhile, I'm just going to have a quick look at my chicken. So I can see now it's starting to change colour. It's starting to get that lovely dark colour that we want. Now this is going to take a little bit longer to cook down, but I will. Oh, it looks good. It smells amazing. Every time I take the lid off, it's just very, very homely. Smells good. Okay, so is everybody still with me? Are we all on the same page? I hope so. Any questions, guys? Do you want me to go over anything? Is there anything that you've missed? Is there, we seem to have lots of Sri Lankans on the chat. So if you've got any questions, now is your time to ask. They've probably got mindful of information that would be really, really useful. So get asking those questions, because you don't want to waste this opportunity. So you can ask me. If I can't help you, we've got loads of people on the chat who will. So anything you want to know, give us a shout. Okay, I'm going to get my plate ready, and I'm going to get my rice almost ready as well. For those of you who have who use fresh coconuts can be a little bit of a nightmare. And if you have seen my YouTube video on how to open a coconut, so I've got a whole load of videos as how-tos and little sort of hints and tips as well as a whole selection of information on spices, really short clips on spice information. I have got a video on how you crack open a coconut. And if you haven't seen it, I would urge you to go and see it, because it is quite funny. I'm sure everybody has their way of doing it, and I'm sure if you live in Sri Lanka, you've got a very unique way of doing it. But the way that I tend to do it, I'll come back to that in a minute. So my rice is boiling. I'm going to pop the lid on.
Have you tried string hoppers?
Yes, I have tried string hoppers. They are really, really good. It's basically done in the same way. It's just with, rather than swirling the whole batter around, it's sort of drizzled so that it makes almost like a net or a jali, and it's pretty cool.
How long do both whole and ground spices last?
So generally what I would say is, if you've got whole spices, they will keep, if you store them correctly, they will keep for up to a year. And by storing correctly, it means you keep them out of the light, away from a heat source, and in the dark, and in an airtight container like the masala dabbe, which obviously we sell through the website. So if you want to have a look at those, they are available. ground spices tend to be, because they're ground, they're releasing their aromatics and their oils much more easily and much more freely. They tend to be about 6 months, but always check your spices, taste them, see if they smell right, and if they do, then they're still holding on to those oils. So don't just throw them away just because they've gone out of date. Use your senses to sort of judge and try and understand whether they've still got their lovely aromas in them, because that's what you're trying to harness. When you use spices, that's what you're harnessing out of your spices into your food. It's the natural oils and those aromas and lovely smells. So there we go. Okay, so my rice lid is on. That's cooking. That's going to take, I reckon, about 10 minutes, if that, slightly less, I think. And then my chicken is going to almost be ready. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dish up. I'm going to show you what it looks like. If you are cooking your chicken at the moment, I suggest you just leave it and let it continue to cook. Have a look at it. If you feel like it needs a little bit more water or anything in there, you can add a little bit more in there. But ideally, what will happen is that the juices will come from the meat itself. If you're cooking a vegetarian option like your cauliflower, again, I've said before, just check. If you need to put a little dash of water in there, it just helps it to just soften the veg a little bit. Then add as and when you need to. But what I will do is, once my rice is cooked, I will dish up. I will show you what it looks like. And then I will urge you to let your dish just cook low and slow. The longer you leave it, the darker that colour will go and the more unctuous and delicious it will be. So there's no hurry, there's no sort of quick, we've got to get it out as soon as I present it. You don't have to do that. Let it cook and let it do its thing. Questions?
Well, John has said, interestingly, rice and curry is almost never eaten for dinner in Sri Lanka. It's exclusively a lunch meal. Is this the same in India?
So, it really depends. So, and it depends where in India you are. Quite often you will have breads up in the north, but we do tend to have rice and bread usually in the evening as well. But that's quite interesting, John, because so if it's a lunch dish, what would you then have in the evening rather than rice? I'd like to know. Is it more the hoppers and those sort of, so idli and things like that, I assume you sort of tend to have things like that and hoppers for breakfast. So it'd be interesting. Yeah, do share your information with us. Okay, right, a little clear down. A little wipe down is always needed, so I'm just going to pop these over to the back. We'll have a little wipe down, and then we'll get ourselves organised so I can roughly show you what it's going to come out looking like. Okay, is everyone still here? Are we in our happy place? Are we in our happy zone? So I've got my dish ready.
Evenings are string hoppers, and hoppers usually quite light.
Which is probably good actually, having something like a hopper and the string hoppers in the evening, because they're not so heavy, I guess, whereas rice is much heavier. Interesting. See, we would have rotis. And we'd have loads of them. When I was younger.
Rotis all day, every day. When you were younger, you could still eat 7 rotis in a sitting, I would say.
I love my rotis. Okay, right. I'm just going to bring my chicken over here, just so that I can show you how we're doing. Oh, it's sizzling away, it's beautiful. But it has darkened in its colour, but this I would leave for another, I would say, good at least 20-25 minutes, because it's all going to just pop that over there. But I am going to show you what it looks like. So all of that lovely juice and gravy, and you can see that it's starting to cook down and come through. If you can't see it, can you see? Oh, it smells incredible. It smells really, really homely, really earthy and yummy, and it's got that slight sort of zing to it. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like, by which point the rice will be ready as well. But as I said, please don't feel like your dish is ready to dish up, because if you're cooking chicken on the bone like I am, it's still going to take some cooking, because I'm going to pop this back in the pan until it's ready. But I don't want to hold your whole evening up. Look at that. Oh, if only you could smell my kitchen, you would be in your happy places. So I will just, whoops. This looks delish. So you'll see, interestingly.
Are you ready for this? Did you hear about the man that injected turmeric into his arm? He's been in a coma for 10 years.
Who's that come from?
John.
John, I love it. That's brilliant.
I read that first bit and I got slightly concerned. And then
okay,
I read the second
so
sentence.
I'm just going to pop that over there. Right, so in the interests of live cooking, I'm just going to, can you pass me tissue? I'm just going to show you the essence of what the Kukul Maas should look like. Now, it does require a little bit more cooking. So those of you who are cooking at home, I'm going to keep saying it, those of you who are cooking at home, don't think it's finished. It hasn't. It needs a little bit more time. But that's what you're looking for, a really deep, dark and delicious chicken curry. It's got a real lovely aromatic of that fennel that comes through, and it's quite delicate in its flavour, but it's got a real kick to it. Now remember the amount of chilies we put in. We put black pepper in there, so there's lots and lots of lovely ingredients in there for heat, but there's also that zingy sort of freshness that comes through the lemongrass that we've added, and the coconut milk is going to give it that lovely warmth. Question?
In addition to the chicken, could we add potatoes and or some other vegetables, or would that completely obliterate the authenticity of the dish?
So different regions have different ways of or different sort of ways that they cook. So in some regions they will put potatoes into their curries. Sri Lanka, I believe they tend to have it more separated, so they'll have this, they'll have sambal, or they'll have their vegetables separate, the same as we do in the Punjab. We tend to separate it out, but in other regions they will put like Gujarati cooking, Bengali cooking, they tend to put potatoes in their dishes. Personally, I would always keep it separate, so I would have my chicken like this, and then I would do a really nice spiced potato dish on the side maybe, and some vegetables and some dal. So that's how I tend to do it, because I just think it's nice to have the different flavours and the different textures from different dishes. But I'm going to just show you the rice as well, as it is beautifully ready. Just pop this over here. So whenever I cook rice, and I always say to people, it should be standing on end. The individual grains of rice should be standing on end. This is what I mean. Can you see? I wish you could, but they're all standing to attention, because they're, oh, that's lovely. It smells amazing. So there is a rice dish and a chicken cooked on another Friday Night Curry Club. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that your dish comes out as beautiful and as delicious as this one. Keep it cooking, as I said, keep it in the pan just for a good sort of at least 15-20 minutes until that meat is really tender and it's almost coming away from the bone. And just to finish the dish, what you can do, and what's really nice to do is you can just take some either desiccated coconut or some shavings of coconut, just toast them in a little pan, and you could also add some fennel seeds, just toast those, and then you can just use that as a little garnish at the end and just sprinkle it over the top. It just adds texture and it just gives that that fennel flavour a little kick as well. But there you go, there's our Friday Night Curry Club Kukul Maas, or a very classic home style Sri Lankan chicken curry. Make sure you take pictures, because that is what this is all about. So take pictures once your dish is done. Make sure you share them with me on my app. Tag me into Instagram if you post them on Instagram, and I will then hopefully be able to share them through my sort of my channels tomorrow as well. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you find this really delicious. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next week. Be ready on Wednesday for when I post what dish we'll be cooking. I will see you next week. Take it easy. Big love.